I'll tell you, it seems like you've pretty much got to go through like going to university and getting a college degree just to know all there is to know about moving abroad. Because, well, for example, look at here. You come to a place like this and try homesteading, I dare you. You just come on. You come on down. You come on, bring your chickens. You know? And it's like this is the rainy season and you hardly see any green at all. And this is the rainy season and the dunes don't count. But you say, well, you're in the desert. And well, the whole of Baja and Sonora is all desert. Yeah, one of my favorite things is falling asleep at the sound of the ocean. Homesteading in Mexico or Ecuador. Hey, welcome back to Frank and Angie's channel, talking about encouraging you to live the retire early lifestyle as soon as you can, and right now we say. Yeah, we've been doing that since our 20s. Let's step into my office and discuss this. And but speaking of the homesteading, which is another way of saying self-sufficiency, some people talk about bug out, back to the land. You know, we all know what's going on. You should be seeing the writing on the wall. We should understand how important this subject is. And there's a lot of people already doing it abroad. And of course, lots of people doing it in the US that have been doing it all along. And we used to do it. We were homesteaders. We were on 3.5 acres and we raised, I'm gonna say maybe 80% of what we were eating. And so we didn't do too bad, but I know there's people doing even better than that, so we could get better. We didn't do the animal thing, but so yeah, there's been people doing this, and there have been people that were doing this a few years back and then left and went back to the US. Some of them are pretty popular people, like Mike Adams of the Health Ranger, that went to Ecuador and started a farm or what have you, and decided it wasn't going to be the thing for them and went back to the US. But there are still people there, and there are people here in Mexico, and there are people in Ecuador doing it, and I imagine there are people all over the world doing it that are not originally from those countries that are doing it, and that's what we're talking about. And so my observation is that it's getting a lot harder just to get to some of these places now, not just because of the current events, but just because of the laws changing, like in Mexico, making it almost impossible now for people of smaller means to, you know, which, I mean, homesteaders typically can have a pretty decent life on smaller means. That's the whole idea. You know, you talk to people within the circles of farming, homesteading, what have you. That's part of the deal, that you don't have to grub around for money all the time because you're producing so much of what you consume that it's already built in. And so you know, just to put it in the numbers, you know, you have a, you know, 100% lifestyle on, say, 25%. And so these numbers are meaningless when you consider the homesteading and farming aspect and the homesteading lifestyle. The numbers are meaningless, but when it comes to immigration departments, they make it meaningful in the sense that they use them and they become barriers to people that typically they're not going to become wards of the state. They're not going to become dependent on any kind of government services at all whatsoever. So the homestead,
because they're self-sufficient.
Exactly, that's the point. They're exactly the opposite types of people that you would think that these regulations are designed to avoid, but the type of people that wouldn't even think of that are being discriminated against anyway. But so Mexico's made it a lot harder for people to come here now, and so that leaves a lot of other places. But there are so many reasons now to scratch places off your list ever since 2020, so that's a different conversation. But I mean, somebody said in the comments, you know, it's getting so bad in Mexico with that line of thinking that they may have to move and go to Ecuador. Well, in Ecuador, you've got the president there that is the puppet of China, that you know, that you've got that situation, and that situation may change. There's a lot of good people in Ecuador, and there's a lot of good people that want change for the good, for the good of the people and everybody there. And there's a lot of good people in the expat community too. And there's people there that are homesteading. And so, but there are other issues. So those are two main issues. So you've got the politics, the immigration issues that are constantly changing and being tinkered with. And then there was another thing happening that isn't necessarily front and center, but that you sometimes, I'll tell you, it seems like you've pretty much got to go through like going to university and getting a college degree just to know all there is to know about moving abroad. Because, well, for example, look at here. You come to a place like this and try homesteading, I dare you. You just come on. You come on down. You come on, bring your chickens. You know? And it's like, this is the rainy season and you hardly see any green at all. And this is the rainy season, and the dunes don't count. But you say, well, you're in the desert. And well, the whole of Baja and Sonora is all desert. And so even if you get out of the obviously deserty areas and go to some of the other areas and some of the mountainous areas, you still have lack of rain issues. Even though on the map it looks green and it looks like there's trees, and like in Unguilla there's trees and stuff, and you'd think there's no issue, but it's literally deserty out there. You know, I mean, they have their rain season, don't get me wrong, and things do turn green when it rains, but it's dry for so long that everything dies off. And unless you have a way to stop that from happening, things are going to die off. Because when you go, well, you think 1 month without rain, 2 months, 3 months, and then it becomes 4 months and 5 months, you know, it doesn't really matter that there's a rainy season unless you're like collecting it all and then reusing it, or you're next to a river. So anyway, homesteader issues, which become self-sufficiency issues, which become thoughts of the current day issues. It's like in the States, I just extended my rain gutter, you know, and collected rainwater. It was just a done deal. In some of these places, it's just a lot more complicated than that. It's literally not doable. Like in this place here, this place gets 10 inches in a year. So they say. I haven't even seen them. I've seen maybe 2 inches so far in 6 or 7 months. But here's the thing that you don't realize is that when we went to Ecuador and we were in Cuenca, when we were right there at the top of the mountains in Cuenca, which is what Cuenca is, there's plenty of rain there. But the minute you get outside of that and you go down to Unguilla, which is where the weather is warmer, which is where you're going to get more out of your farming and because there's more sunshine, and there's some things you can't grow in Cuenca, you know, because it's too chilly. The tomatoes barely get red there. You know, the figs won't mature, you know, things like that. But you can grow lots of greens, and I did. I grew lots of kale and such. But when you get outside, you say, well, let's just go down the mountain here about an hour and a half, go to Unguilla, and it's sunnier and warmer, but then it doesn't rain. Not only does it not rain, it's like desert, it's like here. But you don't see that. It's challenging to know all these little details. When we went down there, the lack of rain is so prevalent that, I mean, I couldn't even run a compost pile. Our background in homesteading, we didn't have desert conditions. We had, I don't recall if it was, I think it was 39 inches of rain, which is a pretty decent amount of rain. It's not, I mean, more is better, but it's not so bad. You can work with it. But you could have 2 months in a row of drought in the summer with just scalding 100-degree days in the south. But we worked with it because we collected rainwater. We stored the water in barrels. We used it to, you know, water the plants during the drought. And our gardens were totally growing and green while everybody else's were dried out. And it was because of the self-sufficiency and the homesteading. And so, but then you got the cost of the land. We've talked about things like that. In these places where there's a lot of people coming, the cost of the land in Baja is prohibitive. It's like California here. I mean, you can't buy anything. I can get way more real estate in North America than I can in any of these places. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, you know, $50,000, $60,000 for 1 acre, you know, in Unguilla. You know, I can get a whole house for that in North America. I'm sure it might be a little fixer or something, but that's fine. That's the whole idea, is you've got that kind of opportunity. And you can get acreage. So, but there are places where you can do homesteading in these countries. It's just that you have to be really particular about where you do it, how you do it. I know a guy that had some acreage down there in, I met several people actually, but then we left. We went to Central America and Europe and stuff, and we lost touch. But some of them seemed like really good people we wanted to get to know, but we had other plans at the time down there in Vilcabamba. I wish we could have got to know them. But there was a guy down there that had some acreage, and knowing what I know about how droughty it is out there, I said, well, how do you run a farm down there? Are you next to a river? Yeah. And I know another guy with a farm down there. He wasn't super close to a river, but he had to go through a lot in order to get access to a river, and he was able.
So Vilcabamba's dry?
Well, when you get out of the peak of the mountains where the rain is, you're looking at a deserty area, and so you have to be near rivers.
I remember people saying it's like Hawaii.
No, that's only referring to the temperature. You know, so, but I could say a lot more about gardening and farming and stuff, and why people do it, and they're not, you know, and all the things that you're not seeing, and all the things that are not telling you, and why people leave and they're not successful and this kind of thing. So, but there are places, but we've got these 3 to 4 issues that are they're huge challenges. That it's like if one of these doesn't apply, then the other, if 1 or 2 of them don't, then maybe this one here or this one here is going to become the insurmountable challenge. And if it's not any of these 3, then it comes down to money. And it's just, if it's not one thing, it's another thing. But here we are, and we're not on a homestead, we're not in a community, but we're thinking about those things, and we're contemplating on those things. There are places in the mountains that get a little more rain, but the cost of the land is so prohibitive. I mean, it's just, I mean, I don't even want to say some of these prices. You know, like hundreds of thousands of dollars, you know, or 100,000 per acre and this kind of thing. They're just ridiculous. And of course, because we're a hop, skip, and a jump from California, you know, and all right, well, I hope you got something out of that. Thanks for coming to the channel, and have a wonderful day.